Welcome to oniro-with-zyga. Let me show you how to set up Ubuntu 22.04 or Ubuntu Jammy to build Oniro. So you can see I have a terminal open and set up to my Jammy system. Now this is a plain installation. There's nothing in it apart from what is there by default. So we will need to install some software before we can actually build an Oniro system. So let me pull up the documentation. All right, now it's in frame. So this is the Oniro documentation website. It's just docs.oniro.project.org. And I'm going to use it as a quick guide to know what to do to set up my system. So on the left, you can see there's a build system guide and there's a chapter about creating a workspace. So let's start with that. So I'm not going to read all of the documentation to you. I'm just going to focus on the commands. So the things we can just copy paste into our system. And the installation instructions differ depending on the distribution that you're using and its specific version. Remember, we're now using Ubuntu 22.04 or Jammy, so we're going to just try to copy paste those instructions. So let's get started. So let's copy this one. It's just apt-get update. Move this out of the way and paste it in. All right, this is running. This will give us access to the latest information about the packages that are available in Ubuntu. The next one is sudo apt-get install repo, and this will allow us to have the repo tool. So let's paste that in. All right, we now have repo installed. So there's a number of additional information about how to set up different distributions. So we'll skip all of those. And at the bottom of the page, there's a part where we set up the workspace. So let's paste these commands. So we're going to create a directory called the Oniro project. Then we're going to tell repo to initialize itself in this directory and point it at the Oniro repository on Eclipse GitLab. So let's copy this one in as well. So this will take a moment. Gonna fetch repo from Google. It's gonna ask us about our username and real name and email and things like that. I'm gonna just hit enter a few times to go ahead with the defaults. You should probably set up your real name and email address because this will be used when you make any kinds of changes and contributions. This will set up Git for you. So we have repos set up, and the next command is this one, Repo Sync. So let's paste that in as well. And this will take a moment. Now, repo will fetch the manifest description. It will read the manifest and find all the Git repositories described by that manifest. And then it's going to fetch all of these repositories and set them up to just the right version in just the right path so that a workspace will be constructed. And again, depending on the speed of your network connection, this may take a while. So while this is running, let's look at the documentation. So at the end of this process, we're supposed to see a structure roughly like this one. And indeed, we will in just a moment. But let's just jump ahead and see the next chapter. So the next chapter tells us about that there are different types of build flavors. And today we're going to be interested in the Linux build flavor. And we have one more command to copy. So this was another long one. It's sourcing the initialization script for Yocto and passing it a directory name for the build. This is where all the build processes will leave their files, and it's setting the template directory or the template configuration file to the Linux flavor. So let's have a look. This is still ongoing, so let's wait for a moment. After that, we're going to run bitbake and pass it the recipe name. And this is where it's going to be a little bit more interesting because we will not have any programs which are required to build this. Indeed, we will not have a tool chain and the make program, and all of these we will get from the archive. So let's go back. All right, it looks good to me. So let's paste this long command to initialize the build system and go back here and copy the last command we're going to need today, the bitbake command, and paste it in there as well. And now Bitbig has detected that we don't have a number of these host tools available. So what can we do? We can just try to run them, like bzip2, and command not found, at least on Ubuntu, will tell us that bzip2 is a program available in a package called bzip2. And we can just run these commands one by one to see what we need to have to prepare the build process. So next one is change our path. So let's try that. Okay, one more command to paste. And maybe this is a little bit tedious, but the advantage of this sort of approach is that it's like a self-documenting process. We don't really need to know about how these packages are called. We don't need to keep track of all these changes that happen from one version of Ubuntu to the next. And effectively, we're using the tooling to tell us what to do. So a few more, we have diffstat. And for most of them, you may notice that they actually are named exactly the same as the package they're contained. So the executable in the package name is the same, but this will not be true for all of them. So let's try to run Bitbig again. So Bitbig tells us that there is no compiler and there's no other few programs available. And start with this one. This is an interesting case. So LZ4C program is actually available in a package called LZ4. So again, let's keep copy pasting these commands until we have all of the dependencies available. So GCC, and that one's easy. So some of them may be a little bit bigger and may take a little bit longer to download and to set up on your system. So let's just wait for that. I'm going to scroll up and fetch the next one. I think the next one will be just GCC. So let's wait until this is done. And apt is kind enough to provide us with a nice progress bar. And again, if you're doing this on a different distribution, maybe the output of command.found will be slightly different. On some distributions, it is actually interactive and will ask you to confirm if you would like to install a package directly. But again, the general rule applies. And if you are running a popular distribution, I will try to do a video on those as well. So you can find, especially from a search engine, you can find the right video directly. All right, we've got GCC or G++ installed. Now, GCC has been pulled in as a dependency, so I think we need just a few more. Let's see. Well, you only need make, and make is installed in. Interesting, there's actually two versions of make. One is just called make, and it's the smaller version, that's the one that's sufficient. And there's a make compiled with additional scheme support, so you can write scheme programs inside make. But this should be enough. All right. And now it is running. So Bitbig now will find, parse, and analyze all of the recipes that describe how to build all of the hundreds and thousands of packages available in Yocto. We'll come up with a dependency graph. We'll figure out which packages can be built immediately, which packages need additional downloads from the internet to complete, like the source code, and it will get its job done. So thanks for watching. This is how to set up your Ubuntu 22.04 Jammy to build Oniro. And see you soon in another video. Bye-bye.